I had never seen it coming. It was a late Thursday evening, and Olivia had been quiet all day. Too quiet. It wasn't unusual for her to retreat into herself sometimes, lost in thought or preoccupied with work, but tonight there was something different in the air, something off, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. We had dinner together, as usual, though it was silent. No casual back and forth about our days, no little jokes or complaints about the news or the kids. She barely touched her food, picking at her plate like she was too tired to eat, or perhaps too lost in thought to care. I tried to engage her. "You okay?" I asked, trying to break through the wall that had settled between us. She didn't look up from her plate immediately. After a long pause, she met my gaze with tired eyes. "I'm fine." I watched her for a moment, searching for any sign of the woman I knew, the one who used to laugh so freely, the one who once shared everything with me. This woman, the one sitting across from me now, felt so far away, distant. When she pushed her plate away and stood up, I figured she just needed a little space. But then she turned toward me, her face unreadable, her posture stiff, and she said something that sent a chill through my spine. "I want a divorce." It wasn't even a question. No hesitation. No preamble. Just a simple, cold statement that shattered everything. My mind scrambled to process the words. Divorce? The very idea felt like it belonged to another life, one I wasn't a part of. I blinked at her, hoping for some clarification, some sign that this was a joke, or that I had misheard her. "Olivia, what are you talking about?" I asked, my voice tight with disbelief. But she didn't flinch. She didn't soften. In fact, her eyes, once warm, were now glassy, distant. "I don't want this anymore, Ethan. I can't do this. I don't love you anymore." The words stung like acid, burning through me in a way I wasn't prepared for. My heart sank in my chest, the weight of her words suffocating me. "You don't love me? After everything? After all these years?" Her gaze hardened, and there was a finality to it that shook me to my core. "I've been trying to tell you for months. But you wouldn't listen. You never listen." I stood there, stunned, unable to even begin to process what she was saying. What did she mean, I never listen? Olivia and I had been together for 15 years, and I thought we understood each other. We had our issues, sure, what relationship didn't? But we had always worked through them. Hadn't we? I took a step forward, my chest tight with panic. "What happened, Olivia? What did I do? If there's something I've done." But she cut me off, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's not you, Ethan. It's me. I've changed. I've been changing for a while, and I can't pretend anymore." A lump rose in my throat. "You're not making sense. We've grown apart," she interrupted. "You know we have. We don't talk the way we used to. We don't share the same life anymore. And I've tried, God, I've tried to ignore it, but I can't anymore." She spoke with such finality, her words colder than I'd ever heard them. There was no room for negotiation, no room for anything but the wall she had built between us. I could feel that wall. It wasn't just emotional, it was physical, like there was a barrier I couldn't cross, no matter how hard I tried. I wanted to say something, anything that would make her understand, but my voice faltered. "But I love you. I'm still in this. We can work through whatever this is." She shook her head slowly. "I don't think you understand. I'm done. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm not asking for you to fix it. It's just over." I felt my chest tighten, the reality of the situation pressing down on me. "You're just giving up?" For a second, I saw something flicker in her eyes, regret, maybe, or sadness, but it was gone almost instantly. She was resolute, unwavering. "I've been giving up for months, Ethan. I can't keep pretending. I need to be free." And just like that, everything I thought I knew about us was being ripped away. There were no accusations, no angry fights, no dramatic moments leading up to this. It was just over. I stepped back, feeling the coldness of the room seep into my bones. "So, what now? You're just going to walk away?" Her eyes softened for a moment, but only for a fleeting second. "I've already walked away. I've been gone for a while." There was a silence between us, heavy and suffocating. I stood there, lost, trying to wrap my mind around what she was saying. She wasn't just leaving me, She had already checked out of this marriage long before she uttered those words. I could feel panic creeping up my spine. But we have kids, Olivia. We've built a life together. You can't just throw it all away. Her expression hardened again, and she crossed her arms, looking more distant than I had ever seen her. I'm not throwing it away, Ethan. I'm just choosing something else. Something that's mine. I've given you everything for years, and I can't give any more. I took a shaky breath, trying to steady myself, trying to think. I needed to find some way to change her mind. Some way to fix this. We can go to counseling. We can talk it through. She shook her head, the coldness in her eyes cutting deeper. I don't want to. I'm done. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to fight for our life, our family, but I didn't. I couldn't. She had already made up her mind. And that was the most painful part. It wasn't that I was being left, it was that she had already left months ago, and I hadn't seen it coming. I thought we were just going through a rough patch. But for her, it wasn't a patch, it was the end of a road we couldn't get back from. Is there someone else? The words slipped out before I could stop them, and I immediately regretted them. She paused, just for a moment, before answering. Does it matter? The question hit me harder than anything else. It wasn't a denial. It wasn't a confirmation. It was just a question. Like she was asking me to accept the truth, whatever it was. I stood there, frozen, unable to speak. My mind was a storm of confusion, rage, and hurt. I wanted to lash out, to demand answers, but the silence between us was louder than any words I could say. Olivia took a step back, her hands shaking slightly. I'm sorry, Ethan. I really am. But I can't keep doing this. And with that, she turned away, leaving me standing there, broken, in the wake of her decision. The next few weeks after Olivia dropped the divorce bomb were a blur of pain and confusion. I thought I had hit rock bottom when she left, but the ground kept falling out from beneath me. She didn't waste any time. The divorce papers came through quickly, and with them, demands that I never saw coming. She wanted full custody of Noah, our son, and she wasn't asking for joint custody or even the possibility of shared time. Olivia wanted it all. She said it was what was best for Noah, that he needed stability, and I wasn't capable of providing that. The words cut me deeper than I expected. I knew things had been strained between us, but I had no idea she felt this way about my ability to parent. We had always shared custody, split weekends, weekdays, and holidays. The routine had worked for us. But Olivia was adamant. She didn't want Noah being exposed to the chaos of a broken family, and she didn't think it was fair to him to have to deal with the fallout of our failed marriage. The real kicker was the financial support she demanded. Alimony, child support, the whole package. She wanted me to pay for the life she was planning to build without me. It didn't make sense. A part of me still wanted to believe that we could come to some kind of agreement, but the reality of the situation began to set in. Olivia had already moved on. She had a plan for her future, and Noah was now a part of it, without me. The first court hearing was a gut punch. I sat in that cold, sterile room, across from Olivia and her lawyer, watching her look at me like I was a stranger. The woman I had shared a life with for 15 years was now my adversary, and she showed no mercy. Her lawyer painted a picture of me as an unstable, unreliable father, someone who couldn't keep a steady job or provide a secure environment for Noah. Olivia, sitting there with a stoic face, never once looked at me with any of the warmth or tenderness she used to. There was only indifference. I tried to defend myself, but every word felt hollow. I wasn't prepared for this fight. I wasn't prepared to defend my own life, to prove to a room full of strangers that I was worthy of being a father to my son. The judge granted Olivia primary custody. My time with Noah was limited to weekends, and even then, I had to prove I could maintain a stable living situation. I was devastated. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. I was a father, but Olivia had made it clear I was no longer needed in the way I once was. But the financial toll was what really crushed me. The child support payments alone were enough to make me feel suffocated, but Olivia wanted more. Alimony in her eyes was fair. She claimed she had given up her career to support our family, to be a stay-at-home mom when Noah was younger, and that I now owed her for the years she had sacrificed. I felt like I was drowning in bills, payments, and debts I couldn't afford. At first, I tried to keep my head above water. I kept going to work, tried to make the payments, tried to hold it all together. But the stress weighed on me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't focus. My mind was consumed with thoughts of Noah, with the house that now felt too empty, and with the mounting bills. The pressure of trying to make it all work slowly crushed my resolve. I started drinking more. Not enough to fall apart in front of anyone, but enough to make it easier to get through the day. And then it happened. I lost my job. It wasn't one thing. It was a combination of mistakes, missed deadlines, and my deteriorating mental state. I had become unreliable at work. The pressure of the divorce and custody battle had made it nearly impossible to concentrate, and my performance suffered. My boss pulled me into a meeting one morning and told me that they could no longer afford to keep me. The words were like a slap to the face. I couldn't believe it. I had worked there for years. I had built a career, a future. And just like that, it was gone. Losing my job was the final blow. I sat in my car in the parking lot for what felt like hours, staring at the steering wheel, trying to figure out what to do next. How was I going to survive without income? How was I going to pay Olivia the child support she demanded, keep up with the alimony, and still try to see Noah? I could already see the walls closing in. I was spiraling. That night, I told Olivia about the job loss. Her reaction was exactly what I expected, cold and indifferent. She didn't show any sympathy. She barely even acknowledged how hard things were for me. "You'll have to find something else," she said, as if it was that simple. "The payments are due, Ethan. I'm not going to wait forever." I hated how she said it, like I was some inconvenience to her. I hated how her life had moved on, while I was stuck, barely holding on. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how unfair everything felt. But I didn't. I couldn't. It wouldn't change anything. I felt trapped. The more I struggled to stay afloat, the further I sank. My relationship with Noah, the only thing that had kept me grounded, was slipping away from me. Olivia had control. She controlled the finances, she controlled the custody, and I was left with nothing but a shrinking hope that somehow I could win back what I had lost. I started taking on odd jobs, working late nights, trying to make ends meet. It wasn't enough. Not by a long shot. Every time I tried to catch my breath, something else came crashing down. Another bill, another deadline, another reminder that I was losing everything I'd worked for. Noah was the one thing that kept me going, but even that was slipping away. On the weekends I did have him, I tried to make every moment count. We'd go to the park, watch his favorite shows together, do whatever we could to make up for the time I'd lost. But it wasn't enough. It never felt like enough. When I hugged him goodbye at the end of the weekend, I knew that I didn't have him as much as I should. I didn't have the time or the means to be the father I wanted to be. And Olivia? She was still distant, still indifferent, still holding all the cards. Every conversation with her felt like a transaction, a business deal. No empathy. No understanding. Just cold, hard facts. I had no idea where I was going. I was drowning in a sea of bills, loss, and heartbreak. Olivia had made her choice, and now I was paying the price. The only thing I knew for certain was that I couldn't let this be the end. I had to find a way to fight, to get my son back, to rebuild my life. But the road ahead seemed darker than ever. The day I was arrested felt like it came out of nowhere, but when I look back, it's clear that it had been building for months. After losing my job, I tried to keep things together. I scrambled to find work, to make ends meet, to pay what I owed. But I was sinking. No matter how hard I tried, the bills kept piling up. Child support, alimony, my rent, the basics. Everything was slipping through my fingers, and I couldn't stop it. I tried to explain this to Olivia. I'd sent her emails, called her, begging for understanding, some kind of relief. I wasn't asking for a handout. Just a little time, a little breathing room, until I could get back on my feet. But Olivia had made it clear from the start that there was no room for compromise. "The payments are due, Ethan. I'm not going to wait forever," she'd said again and again. Every call, every text, every conversation felt like I was begging. I hated it. The court was no better. I'd shown up for every hearing, every mediation, every appointment. I'd explained my situation, presented my efforts to find work, tried to show that I wasn't just avoiding my responsibilities. But the court wasn't interested in that. They had their rules. And the rules said that if you didn't pay child support, there were consequences. I didn't think it would get to this point. I thought there would be some understanding, some leniency. But the notice came in the mail one cold morning, just like any other. It was a court order. I had missed another payment. And because I couldn't show the court that I was actively seeking work, they'd issued a bench warrant for my arrest. I had no idea how serious this had become. I thought they'd just garnish my wages or add interest to the debt. I didn't think they could actually throw me in jail for this. The knock on the door came around 6 a.m., right as I was trying to gather myself for another day of job hunting. I wasn't expecting anyone, and when I opened the door and saw the officer standing there, I froze. I didn't even think about running or trying to fight it. I just stood there, feeling the weight of everything I'd lost hit me all at once. "Are you Ethan Walker?" the officer asked. "Yes," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. "I have a warrant for your arrest for failure to pay child support. You're coming with me." The officer didn't give me time to react, didn't give me any explanation. He just handcuffed me, led me to his squad car, and drove me to the local detention center. I don't remember much of the ride, just the numb feeling in my chest, the overwhelming shame, and the sense of helplessness that seemed to wash over me like a wave. I couldn't believe this was happening. I couldn't believe I was being arrested for something that should have been temporary. But I wasn't allowed that luxury. Life didn't care about my intentions, my struggles. The system had a job to do, and I was its target. At the station, the process was quick, too quick. I was booked, fingerprinted, and thrown into a holding cell with a handful of other men who all looked like they were there for a lot worse reasons than I was. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, staring at the walls, feeling like I was losing everything. When I finally went before the judge, I was exhausted, emotionally drained, and desperate. My lawyer, who had been dealing with the divorce and custody case, tried to plead my case. He told the judge about my job loss, my attempts to find work, the financial hardship I was facing. But the judge was unyielding. I had missed several payments, and according to the law, I had to face the consequences. "You had plenty of time to make arrangements, Mr. Walker," the judge said, his voice cold. "You were given every opportunity to pay, and you failed to do so. As a result, I'm sentencing you to 1 month in county jail, along with community service, and I'm ordering you to attend financial counseling upon your release." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A month in jail? For missing child support payments? It was like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I tried to argue, tried to explain again how impossible it was, but the judge wasn't listening. And so, I was taken away. The first few days in jail were a blur. It wasn't like the movies. There was no big fight, no loud shouting. It was just quiet. The days bled into one another. I spent most of the time alone in my cell, trying to make sense of everything. I felt like I was in a fog. How had I ended up here? How had it all gone so wrong? The worst part was the shame. I couldn't stop thinking about Noah. He was out there, living his life, and I was stuck in a cell. I had no idea how he was handling it. I tried to tell myself that I wasn't a criminal, that this wasn't who I was. But it didn't matter. The fact was, I had failed to meet my obligations. And now I was paying the price. When I wasn't locked in my cell, I was doing menial tasks, cleaning floors, emptying trash cans, sorting paperwork. The community service felt like a punishment, a constant reminder of my failure. Every day, I was surrounded by men who were there for far worse reasons than I was, but it didn't matter. I was here to... The guilt gnawed at me. The one thing I'd always prided myself on, being a father, was slipping away. When I was finally released after what felt like an eternity, the world outside seemed strange. I had missed so much. I couldn't just pick up where I left off. Olivia's voice on the phone had been stern when I called to check on Noah. "He's fine," she'd said, but there was no warmth in her voice. "You need to get your life together, Ethan. I'm not waiting for you forever." She didn't understand. She didn't understand how much this was killing me. Every minute I spent away from Noah felt like a part of me was dying. The financial counseling wasn't a fix. I went through the motions of the sessions, listened to the counselor's advice, but nothing felt like it would change anything. The damage had been done. I was still behind on payments. I was still struggling to find work. And now, I had a criminal record. I didn't know where I was going anymore. I had lost my job, lost my freedom, and lost the time I had with my son. Every step forward felt like a step further from the man I used to be. I just wanted to be a father again. I wanted to fix it all, but I didn't know how. It felt like the world was moving on without me, and I was left behind, lost in a mess of mistakes, regret, and pain. It came in the mail, folded neatly, addressed in a handwriting I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was just another piece of junk mail, or maybe a bill I couldn't afford to pay. But then I saw the return address, Emily, 4205 Maple Street, and my heart skipped a beat. Emily. I hadn't heard from her in years. She was Olivia's former colleague, someone I'd met a few times at social gatherings, a pleasant woman, but not someone I'd ever kept in touch with. What was she writing to me for? I hesitated for a long time before opening the letter. I'd been through so much already, and the thought of dealing with another shock, another betrayal, was too much to bear. But something inside me told me to read it, to find out what she had to say. So I unfolded the paper, and as I read, my hands began to tremble. The letter was brief, but its contents sent a shockwave through me. Ethan, I hope this finds you well. I know this might seem strange, but there's something you need to know about Olivia, something from her past. I don't know if she's ever told you, but she had a relationship with another man, one that lasted far longer than you might imagine. When Noah was born, there were questions about the timing, questions that Olivia always brushed off. But I think you deserve the truth, especially after everything you've been through. I felt the blood drain from my face as I continued to read. I didn't want to get involved, and I've kept my silence for a long time. But I can't stand by and let you keep believing everything Olivia's told you without knowing the full picture. Noah may not be your son, Ethan. I don't know for sure, but I think you should get a paternity test. If you need any help with that, I'm here. I just wanted you to have the option to know the truth. The letter ended there. No signature, no elaboration. Just a shocking revelation and an offer of support. I couldn't breathe. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what Emily had said. Olivia had been hiding something? And Noah, my Noah, may not even be my biological son? It felt like the ground beneath me had cracked open. I sat there, staring at the letter, barely able to comprehend the words on the page. I thought of Noah, of the years I'd spent as his father, raising him, loving him. What if everything I believed about our family was a lie? I needed answers. I had to know if what Emily said was true. But I was scared, terrified of what this would mean, of what it would do to me, to Noah, to everything I thought I knew. But there was no denying the truth in the letter, and I knew deep down that I couldn't ignore it. I had to take the test. The day the paternity test results arrived was the day my entire world came crashing down. I had been living in a fog of confusion and disbelief ever since Emily's letter, trying to convince myself that there was some mistake, some misunderstanding. I wanted so badly to believe that the man I thought I was, the father I thought I was, hadn't been deceived. But deep down, I knew the truth was waiting in that envelope, and I had no way to stop it from unfolding. I tore open the envelope with shaky hands, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't even need to look at the words. The cold, clinical letterhead, the fact that they were delivering it to me in person, told me everything I needed to know. The test confirmed it. Noah was not my biological son. I stared at the results, my mind struggling to process the words. My son. My son. It felt like a punch to the gut, and the air around me seemed to grow thick, suffocating. For years, I'd believed that Noah was mine, my flesh and blood. I had raised him, cared for him, loved him as my own. How could this be true? It wasn't just the paternity test that shattered me. It was the fact that everything I'd believed in, everything I had built with Olivia, had been a lie. She had known. She had known all along that Noah wasn't mine. And now, the truth was laid bare, impossible to ignore. I didn't know what to do with the information. I couldn't talk to Olivia. Not now. Not after everything she had already taken from me. But I couldn't just walk away either. I needed to confront her, to demand answers. But the revelations didn't end there. As the legal proceedings continued, a series of shocking discoveries began to unfold. Olivia had been manipulating more than just me. She had been playing both sides, me and James, the man Emily had mentioned in her letter, the man she had been involved with before me. The court uncovered that Olivia had used both of us to secure her financial future. It turned out that while I had been paying child support, keeping up with alimony, and trying to do right by Noah, Olivia had been in contact with James behind my back. She had been collecting money from him, too. She'd made him believe he was still the father, kept him on the hook for years. She'd managed to get us both to pay for the same child, without either of us knowing the truth. When the evidence came to light, it was more than I could take. It felt like a cruel joke. Olivia had manipulated our love, our trust, our lives. She had played us both, feeding us half-truths, using our emotions to her advantage. She had been extorting money from James and me for years, money that was never hers to take, money she'd used to build the life she wanted without ever being honest with us. The court was furious. Olivia's lawyer tried to play it off, claiming that she hadn't intentionally deceived us, but the evidence was clear. She had been extorting money from both of us under false pretenses. When I saw her face in the courtroom, I didn't know whether to scream at her or break down. She didn't look guilty. She didn't look sorry. In fact, she looked almost relieved. As if everything she had done was justified, as if the lies she'd spun had all been worth it. The judge was unforgiving. Olivia was ordered to return the money she had taken from both James and me, though I knew the chances of seeing a dime of it were slim. But the real punishment was the toll it had taken on me. The betrayal, the shock, the utter devastation, it was enough to break anyone. Olivia's deception didn't just ruin our marriage. It shattered my sense of self, destroyed the image of the life I had built, and left me questioning everything. How could I have been so blind? How had I let her manipulate me for so long, without seeing what she was really doing? The truth was that I wasn't just grieving for Noah, for the son I thought I had. I was grieving for the life I thought I had built with Olivia. I had trusted her. I had loved her. And she had used that trust, that love, to control me, to control James, and to control our lives. As the court session ended and I walked out into the cold, empty hallway, I realized that nothing would ever be the same. I had lost my job, my family, my future. And now, the only thing left was to pick up the pieces of my broken life, even though I had no idea how to start. I had no idea who I was anymore. The man I'd been, the father I'd tried to be, was gone. And I had no idea if I could ever rebuild myself. But one thing was clear, I had to move forward. For myself. For Noah. For the life I had left. And somehow, I had to find a way to make it right. But first, I had to figure out how to face the person who had taken everything from me, without ever blinking an eye.